Walk into any AutoZone in America and you will see a wall of car batteries arranged by brand, by tier, and by price. The Duralast Gold sits at around $170. Down the street at Walmart, the EverStart Max sells for $120. At Costco, the Kirkland Signature is $110 with a 100-month warranty. At a Ford dealership, the Motorcraft replacement costs $250. 4 different stores, 4 different brand names, 4 different price tags. And in the majority of cases, they were all manufactured by the same company, in the same factories, on the same production lines, using the same lead plates, the same acid, and the same plastic cases. The only thing that changes is the sticker on top and the number on the receipt. The company is called Clarios. It used to be the Power Solutions division of Johnson Controls, a Milwaukee conglomerate that never put its own name on a battery. Instead, it manufactured the batteries that everyone else sold. The batteries that AutoZone sold as Duralast. The batteries that Sears sold as DieHard. The batteries that Walmart sold as EverStart. The batteries that Costco sold as Kirkland. The batteries that Ford dealers sold as Motorcraft. And the batteries that Interstate marketed through 200,000 dealers under the Interstate name. Today, Clarios operates 16 manufacturing facilities across America, employs 18,000 people, and produces 150 million batteries per year. 1 out of every 3 cars on the road worldwide is starting its engine with a Clarios battery right now. Every one of those brands told you a story. DieHard told you it was tough. Interstate told you it was trusted. Duralast told you it was professional grade. Motorcraft told you it was engineered for your Ford. And every one of those stories came from a marketing department, not a factory floor. Because on the factory floor, they were the same battery. On Bob is the Oil Guy, one of the largest independent automotive forums in the world, mechanics maintain a running list of which manufacturer makes which battery. Clarios makes DieHard, Duralast, EverStart, Interstate, Kirkland, Motorcraft, AC Delco, and Optima. The only other manufacturer that matters is East Penn, which makes Delco, Napa, and O'Reilly SuperStart. Between those 2 companies, virtually every car battery at every major retailer in America is accounted for. One forum member put it plainly: the battery in your car was probably made in the same building as the battery in the car parked next to you, regardless of what brand is printed on either one. In April 2019, a Canadian private equity firm called Brookfield Business Partners acquired the entire Clarios operation from Johnson Controls. The purchase price was $13.2 billion. Of that amount, Brookfield put in roughly $3 billion in cash. The remaining $9.9 billion was debt, loaded directly onto the acquired company. On the day the deal closed, Clarios owed nearly $10 billion before it had generated a single dollar of revenue under its new owners. This is the standard private equity playbook. Buy a dominant business, finance the purchase with the company's own future cash flow, and extract value through fees, dividends, and an eventual exit. Brookfield filed for an IPO in 2021 that would have valued Clarios at $11 billion. The purpose was to raise money to pay down the debt. They pulled it. They filed again in 2022, and they pulled it again. In January 2025, Clarios scrapped its IPO plans entirely and issued more debt instead. Meanwhile, every time you buy a battery at any major retailer, a portion of that payment helps service the $10 billion Brookfield used to acquire the company. You are not just buying a battery, you are financing a leveraged buyout. If this is changing how you think about the batteries in the auto parts aisle, hit subscribe. We investigate the products and industries that do not want you looking behind the label. But here is where the history gets darker, because the story of Clarios' main competitor reveals just how little accountability exists in the battery manufacturing world. Exide Technologies was once the second largest battery manufacturer in America. Between 1994 and 1997, Exide manufactured batteries that it knew were defective and sold them to Sears under the DieHard brand name. A Sears merchandise buyer, Gary Marks, was being paid over $100,000 in bribes by Exide to keep the orders coming. Thousands of defective DieHard batteries were sold to consumers at full retail price across the country. The scheme was only discovered when a former Exide employee went to federal investigators. Exide pleaded guilty to fraud conspiracy in 2001 and paid $27.5 million in fines. Sears paid $62.6 million in settlement. Exide's former CEO, Arthur Hawkins, was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison and fined $1 million. His former president received 5 years. The bribed buyer pleaded guilty. And Exide's damage was not limited to defective batteries. The company's recycling plants, which processed spent batteries to recover lead for new production, left toxic contamination at sites across the country. In Greer, South Carolina, an Exide plant operated from 1987 to 1996. Lead dust contaminated the surrounding neighborhood. More than 15 children living near the plant were found to have elevated lead levels. Some developed cognitive deficits. The EPA removed more than 2 million pounds of contaminated soil. The plant was torn down in 2015. The contamination remains. This is the industry behind the brands on the shelf. The dominant manufacturer is owned by a private equity firm that financed the purchase with $10 billion in debt. The second largest manufacturer sent its chief executive officer to prison for selling defective batteries under the most trusted name in the business. And the consumer standing in the aisle has no way to tell the difference. But once you understand that the brand is meaningless, the question becomes simple. What actually differs between a $120 battery and a $280 battery? Say you drive a 2019 Toyota Camry. It takes a Group 35 battery. At Walmart, the EverStart Max costs about $120. At AutoZone, the Duralast Gold costs about $190. At Advance Auto Parts, the DieHard Gold costs about $200. At a Toyota dealership, the TrueStart runs about $240. Every one of those batteries was likely manufactured by Clarios. The CCA ratings are within 10% of each other. The lead plates were cast in the same foundry. The acid was mixed to the same concentration. You are looking at a $120 spread between the cheapest and the most expensive version of what is, at the molecular level, the same product. The real differences come down to cold cranking amps, reserve capacity, and warranty length. Cold cranking amps, CCA, is the measure of how much power the battery can deliver at 0 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 seconds. This is the number that determines whether your car starts on the coldest morning of the year. A higher CC, A means more starting power. Reserve capacity is how many minutes the battery can sustain a 25 amp load before dropping below usable voltage. This matters if your alternator fails and you need the battery to keep the car running long enough to reach a mechanic. Within the same manufacturer, a higher tier battery has more lead in the plates, thicker separators, and sometimes a different alloy composition. A Duralast Gold has more cold cranking amps than a standard Duralast. Those differences are real, but they are differences in tier, not in brand. A DieHard Silver, a Duralast Standard, and an EverStart Max in the same group size with the same cold cranking amps rating built by Clarios are functionally identical products at different price points. The markup is in the name. DieHard carries legacy brand equity from decades of Sears advertising. Interstate carries the weight of its 200,000 dealer distribution network. Motorcraft carries the Ford logo. You are paying for the story, not the lead. Here is what the smart buyers actually do. They check the date code stamped on the battery case, a letter for the month, and a number for the year. If the battery is more than 3 months old, they ask the store for a fresher one. They buy from Costco or Walmart, where inventory turns over fast and batteries are not sitting on a shelf for 8 months losing charge. A Kirkland Signature at Costco comes with a 100-month warranty, one of the longest in the industry, and costs $110 to $130. Mechanics on the forums regularly identify it as the single best value in car batteries, not because it is a better battery, but because it is the same battery at a lower price with a better warranty from a retailer that will replace it without argument. They match the battery to their vehicle's CCA requirement, not the brand name. And they understand that the warranty is the real product. A 36-month free replacement at Costco is worth more than a 24-month free replacement at AutoZone, even if the battery inside is identical. The retailer's return policy matters more than the manufacturer's reputation, because the manufacturer is Clarios either way. One more thing worth knowing. If you check the barcode label on any car battery, you can identify the manufacturer with 2 letters. Clarios batteries start with JC. East Penn batteries start with EP. That 2-letter code tells you more about what is inside the battery than the brand name ever will. On the forums, East Penn is ranked slightly above Clarios for overall quality. If you see EP on a Walmart EverStart or a Napa Legend, you may be holding the better product at the lower price. The American car battery market is on track to exceed $32 billion by 2030. Clarios sits at the center of it, collecting revenue from every major retailer, every major automaker, and every major dealership network. A private equity firm in Toronto financed the acquisition with $10 billion in debt, tried to flip the company twice, failed both times, and loaded on more debt. The company that makes your DieHard, your Duralast, your EverStart, and your Interstate is not a battery company in the traditional sense. It is a debt instrument that happens to make batteries. And every time you stand in the aisle comparing 2 batteries with different brand names and different prices, you are looking at 2 products from the same factory, made by the same workers, with the same lead, the same acid, and the same plastic case. The only difference is which marketing department wrote the label. Those are the same components under different stickers. That is not a competitive marketplace. That is a brand licensing operation wearing 20 different logos. And the $120 spread between the cheapest and the most expensive battery in the aisle is not paying for quality. It is paying for the illusion of choice. Check the date code, check the CCA, check the warranty, and stop paying a premium for a sticker that was printed at a different facility than the battery it is stuck to. If you found this investigation valuable, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We are going deeper into the industries that depend on you, never asking who actually made the product.